Hey guys, welcome to the CSS Awesomeness course, where you will learn to write the basics of CSS the awesome way. My name is Gilad, and I will lead you through this amazing course. Even before I was a cartoon character, I began my career as a web developer. Soon afterward, I transitioned to entrepreneurship and founded my very own startup company. Currently, I work at the company I've founded from scratch, and also, I do what I love the most, teaching you guys. I designed this course for anyone seeking to learn basic CSS and begin a career as a rock star web developer, as well as anybody who just loves to expand their knowledge. By the end of this course, you will have a rock-solid knowledge of all CSS building blocks such as selectors, width and height, the box model, CSS backgrounds, and many, many more. Oh, we'll even learn how to use the almighty developer tools. I will teach you the latest version of CSS3 by the standards of the W3C Association. These standards are used by all the major companies in the world. Not only will I cover all of these topics, but I will also give you an opportunity to practice them by giving you a pop quiz every now and then. The ideal student for this course is anybody who wants to expand their knowledge of CSS, or get a leg up in the web developer world. The only prerequisites necessary to enroll is a basic knowledge of HTML and an open mind to my silly jokes. You are free to look at the course description, and I look forward to meeting you inside. Why learn CSS anyway? When I first learned about web development, I wanted to build the next big thing in the internet world, which is clearly Green Stripe's raccoon website. I armed myself with a bit of HTML knowledge and started out immediately. I added a snippet of code here, a little bit of HTML there, and voila! My website looked hideous! Yay! I stepped back a bit and then looked at other big websites out there. I noticed they were using awesome colors, fonts, and borders, and lots of other tricks I didn't know about. I investigated for 2 whole seconds and discovered they were using a magical code language. CSS. Oh, wow. In this second, I knew my life purpose for the next week. Learning CSS. The awesome way. There are more reasons to learn CSS, for sure, like adding cool animations, being mobile friendly, and even customizing your content more easily. We will cover all of those in this course, and I will make sure you will get your dose of bad jokes. What is CSS? CSS is shorthand for cascading style sheets. Leave it to the marketing dudes. And quite boldly in charge of all the design of your document. If HTML is the big guy who is in charge of the structure, then CSS is the hipster designer who loves to make everything pretty. It will make your fonts, colors, margins, borders, height and width, background images, and all the pretty stuff you can think of. Do I need to know anything before I write CSS? Although it's a CSS course, we will use HTML in this course as well. So, before diving into this book, you will need to arm yourself with a little bit of HTML knowledge. We will write down the structure of our examples through HTML, and then design it with our awesomely new CSS skills. For all my examples in this course, I will use Notepad++, which is a completely free text editor. By the way, you can grab it here. http://notepad-plus-plus.org/download. However, if you happen to be allergic to my suggestions, you can always try other software. I won't judge you. I promise. I will. Set up your CSS. In CSS, we have several ways to place our styling inside of our project. The most unhealthy way is the inline method. As you can see, we have a style attribute. Then, in the value of the attribute, we have our CSS code. This method is not ideal. Let me set an example so you'll see why. You can see that you clearly have a problem here since you wrote the same CSS code 3 times. If you are a lazy person like myself, let's see how you can solve this problem using the other method we've got. In this example, we can see that we cleared all the unhealthy inline CSS method from the p tag and replaced it with a class, then connected just one CSS code in the style tag up in the head tag. So eventually we saved a bit of energy by only making our statement once. Uh-oh, we've got another lazy problem. Let's say we set our home page with the kind of CSS we just wrote, and then we want to write another page. Say our contact us with the same CSS code? We would need to write down all of our CSS code again? Jeez, too much work for me, sir. In this case, we've got another trick up our sleeve. CSS external link. We will make a new file with a .css extension and then link it to every web page in which we want our CSS to take place. On the href attribute, write your file path, and that's how you set up your page the awesome way. CSS Selectors. We are going to learn some CSS Selectors. Woo! So, what do you say about my CSS Selector song? Huh? Pretty amazing, huh? I was thinking about submitting it to MTV's Top 10 one of these days and beating Justin Bieber. That would be a great day. To humanity, even. Anyway, CSS Selector. Yes. This is the day you are going to learn one of the greatest and most valuable lessons you can learn in CSS building blocks, CSS Selectors. What is CSS Selector? Selector is, quite self-explanatory, a CSS way to select your HTML element and say to your browser, "All right, browser, would you be a sport and grab this element for me?" Oh, then make it blue. The structure of the selector is very easy. First, optional, we have our type of selector, most of the time beginning with ID or class selectors. Then we have the name of the selector. Next, we open our curly brackets. Inside, we have our CSS declarations. The declarations are made of property and value. We take each declaration apart with a colon sign and end each with a semicolon. That's it. That's all you need to know about CSS selectors. And my CSS selector song, of course. CSS selectors, woohoo! ID selector and class selector. In this example, we introduce the selector type ID, but we also have a class selector. What's the difference between them, you ask? Imagine that we're having 3P elements in our document. Each and every one of them represents a member of my least favorite family in the whole world, the Kardashians. Let's write it down in our text editor. Now, we can call them by their names. Kim, Rob, Courtney, with the K, of course. By doing so, we are accessing a particular member of the Kardashian family, and we can attach an ID attribute. So if we want to, let's say, lock Kim in a border, we can select Kim's ID and create a border around her name. But what if we want to make borders of all the Kardashians' family members? Will we select all of them by name? Nah, we're too lazy for that task, aren't we? Instead, we would add a class attribute for them, like that. Now we will edit our CSS file. Note the difference between class and ID. If we want to access a class, we have that little dot. And if we want to access an ID, we have that pound sign. Easy, huh? Now we can lock all the Kardashians in our shiny red border. And this hard task is achieved only with one snippet of code. Our very own first project. Do you remember a few lessons ago I told you about my first attempt to build the next big thing on the internet, which is the Green Stripes Raccoon website? Do you? Well, today we will try again to achieve this kind of worldwide recognition and build our first Green Stripes Raccoon website. So, before we do, we will set up our project real nice, create a CSS folder in the main folder, and create a .css file called style. Then, in your main folder, create a .html file called index. Inside of it, type Now we are all set. Let's get started. By the way, just because I'm making the Green Stripes Raccoon website doesn't mean you can't make whatever website you want. What kind of website are you making? Type your answer in the Q&A section in Udemy and share it with me. CSS Width and Height. First thing in our Green Raccoon website is to have a green navigation top. So, let's create a div element. A div element is acting like a section within our HTML, and we can manipulate it quite smoothly with our CSS skills. I'll create a div. Then, I want to define its width and height. So I'll create a class attribute and call it topNav. And inside my CSS file, I want my top navigation bar to be very wide, side to side, and the height to be 90 pixels. So I'll write this down. Save it, refresh it, and voila. Nothing shows. What gives? Maybe because we don't have any color for our top navigation bar? Backgrounds. To make our green div pop, we will still need to color it with the color green, I guess. In your CSS file, add to your topNav class this line. If you want to be more particular, you can, instead, go with a hexadecimal color like this. By the way, I used the colorpicker.com website if you want to be more picky with your colors. We can also get a background image like this. And that's how you do backgrounds. Cool, huh? CSS Box Model. And a bonus! All right. If you will save your document and refresh your page, you can clearly see that we have a margin right on our top nav class. And that's due to our CSS Box Model. Now, bear with me because most of the people who learn this thing tend to kill themselves in this lesson. My students, in particular, try to do so after they hear one of my jokes, coming just before they are introduced to the box model. Therefore, I never learn how they would react to the box model. Nevertheless, I'll try to do my best. For this demonstration, I will get the hand of the mandatory P tag. Let's write inside of it. I've got a feeling we are not in Kansas anymore. With a Toto ID. Almost every element in HTML has a secret 4 layers inside of it. We have our content, which is our text, the first layer. Let's have it colored yellow just to make it pop out of the screen. To this text, we can add a green border, the second layer, 3 pixels wide, solid line. Now we have 2 more of both sides of the border. We have the padding layer, which lies on the inner side of the border. And also the margin, which lies on the outer side of the border. That's it. That wasn't so bad, was it? Now, to address our problem earlier, all we need to do is place a margin 0 to our body element, because our browser has a preset of margin and padding for some reason. And we are good to go. Here's a useful tip. If you are on PC using Chrome, Firefox, or even IE, you can press F12. Then, hover the cursor over your own code lines through your browser. They will show you really great input. Also, you can play around with your CSS and HTML code in your browser. Impressive, huh? CSS Float and other stuff. Now that we have our top navigation set and ready, we should populate it with a little bit of flair. Let's say we want to have a banner and a logo and navigation buttons and a squirrel, just in case. So let's just say we want 3 divs to represent every section we need. Logo, banner, navigation. Then, order them horizontally. Let's try this one. Now we will set width and height for each and every one of them. Also, for the sake of being sane, let's color them in different colors so we can see them on the screen. We'll change the color afterwards. What? Oh man, what gives? How come my divs decided to stack on each other like a bunch of bananas? Well, that's because divs' behavior, by default, is to take all of the width they've got. So the next div in line is under the last one, and so on. How can we resolve that? Enter float. With float, you can push your element to one side and make room for the other. Add float left to your logo and banner, and float right to the nav wrapper. And yeah, baby, we got it. And now we can erase the ugly background color that we've got for draft. Now, let's try to take care of our navigation buttons. We want to create 3 buttons and order them horizontally, then design them a bit. So let's create 3 unordered list items with a link inside of our nav wrapper div. Now we can style them a bit. First things first, I have the weirdly bullets that come as bundle with the list items, so I'll have them erased. I will select the UL tag directly and then write list style type as none, and bam, gone! I'm awesome, I tell ya. Then we will set our nav button with a little bit of padding to have our buttons with a little bit of fluff. We will color it with a bit of greenish color. I'll set all of the buttons with float left, so they will order horizontally. And maybe add to all of them a little bit of margin left so they'll have some spaces between them. And maybe have the text color white with a little bit of border on the bottom of the buttons to add a bit of flair. What do you say about that, huh? Our Green Stripes Raccoon website navigation is all set. CSS fonts. I'm getting the feeling that we're really not happy with the font we're having here. So to fix that, we need to understand what we want. We want our website to be consistent with its font, so we'll select the body element and type Font Family Arial. Let's program together. That was so much fun. I had a blast. Now that you know the building blocks of CSS, I will continue and try to use all the stuff we just learned, and a few more tips and tricks. Enjoy! By the way, there are many properties in CSS, more than we can think of, so I'm leaving you with a free cheat sheet with a huge amount of CSS properties and what they can do for you. I will use some of them on the next video, so if you come across something new, explore it for yourself in this file. Now what? Congratulations! You accomplished this course. You heard lots of bad jokes in this book, and yet you've made it. I'm very proud of you. You might ask yourself, now that I've accomplished my first CSS course, what should I do? How can I improve my web developing skills? Well, my young Padawan, it's now time to combine your HTML and CSS skills with some JavaScript. I do have a JavaScript course just for you, and because you purchased this book, or in compensation for my bad jokes, I will give you 50% off all of my courses in Udemy. Just email me at http://basiccss.gilad.me/discount50 and ask for the discount.